While my husband Thomas celebrates emptying our joint accounts with a $89,000 wire transfer to his secret Cayman bank account, I'm quietly sitting in my home office finalizing the documents that will reveal my separate trust worth $2 million that he thinks doesn't exist. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. As he books a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires using the credit card I still pay for, I'm orchestrating the most illuminating wake-up call of his deceitful life. He has absolutely no idea that his supposedly financially dependent wife has been a silent investor in 3 tech startups that went public last year. My hands remain perfectly steady as I sign another document, a quiet smile playing on my lips. Through the window of my attorney's sleek downtown office, I can see the high-rise where Thomas works, probably packing up his personal items right now. The irony isn't lost on me. The same building where we celebrated his promotion 5 years ago with champagne and promises of forever. The same company where he met Olivia, his 26-year-old executive assistant, whose Instagram is suddenly filled with luxury shopping bags and weekend getaways. Ms. Reynolds, are you absolutely certain about this timeline? Elaine, my attorney, watches me with a mixture of admiration and concern, her tortoiseshell glasses perched on her nose as she organizes another stack of documents. We could wait until... I turn my phone toward her, showing Thomas's latest bank alert that just pinged on my monitoring app. The one he has no idea I installed after finding suspicious transactions 3 months ago. The timestamp reads 4 minutes ago. $42,500 withdrawal from joint savings account. Next to it, a notification from American Airlines confirming a one-way first-class ticket to Buenos Aires. The timing, I say, signing another paper with a flourish, is absolutely perfect. My phone buzzes with a text from Thomas. Working late tonight, honey. Big project deadline. Don't wait up. Love you. I've saved every message like this from the past 6 months. Each one corresponds perfectly with credit card charges at upscale restaurants, boutique hotels, or jewelry stores. The ones he doesn't know I've meticulously documented. The ones that match exactly with Olivia's suspiciously luxurious Instagram posts, each tagged with nauseating captions about being blessed and living her best life. What they don't know is that I've known for months. Every business dinner, every client emergency, every suspicious withdrawal from our joint savings account, I've documented it all. But unlike most betrayed wives, I didn't confront him. I didn't throw his designer clothes onto our driveway or slash his precious BMW's tires. Instead, I did what I do best. I followed the money. This one, Elaine points to a particular document, will freeze his personal accounts once you sign. There's no going back after this. I think about this morning, how Thomas kissed my cheek before leaving for work, how he promised we'd celebrate our anniversary next week. Meanwhile, I'd already seen the Buenos Aires apartment rental agreement he'd secured, not for us, but for him and Olivia next month, paid for with our joint savings. Good, I say, my signature flowing across the paper. That's exactly what I want. My phone lights up with another notification, an Instagram story from Olivia showing off a distinctive blue Tiffany box captioned, "When he knows exactly what you deserve." I screenshot it, noting the time and date. It matches perfectly with the purchase notification from our joint credit card, the one Thomas thinks I never check. The forensic accounting team will begin their investigation tomorrow morning. Elaine explains, organizing the papers. Given what you've already uncovered about the hidden accounts, they'll likely find twice as much as we already know. I finish for her, pulling up a folder on my phone. Here's every transaction he's tried to hide through that shell company he created in Delaware. The one where Olivia mysteriously became a consultant 3 months ago, despite her only experience being an executive assistant with an associate's degree in communications. Elaine's eyes widen as she scrolls through the documents. This is remarkably thorough. I had a lot of free evenings. I say dryly. You know, with all his client meetings. As if on cue, my phone buzzes with a group chat notification. Our friends planning a weekend barbecue. Thomas responds immediately. Sorry everyone, have to skip. Flying to Chicago for business. I have to suppress a laugh. I know about that business trip too. I've seen the hotel reservation in Buenos Aires. First-class tickets for 2, charged to our joint credit card. Last one, Elaine says, sliding the final paper across the desk. This initiates the freeze on all joint assets and notifies the bank of potential fraud. I don't hesitate. My signature flows across the paper, years of anger and betrayal channeled into each curve and line. Another notification pops up. Thomas. Going live on Instagram from what's supposed to be his office, the distinctive lobby of his corporate building visible as he leaves early, no doubt to meet Olivia. Let them celebrate, I say, standing up and smoothing my dress, the one Thomas bought me last month out of guilt. By tomorrow morning, they'll have a very different story to share. Elaine gathers the papers, her expression both impressed and slightly concerned. You know, in 15 years of handling divorce cases, I've never seen anyone quite as prepared, I suggest, picking up my bag. Or maybe just tired of being underestimated. As I walk out of the office, my phone buzzes one last time. Thomas sending his nightly check-in. Miss you, beautiful. Can't wait to come home to you. I smile, typing back. Sleep well, darling. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. He'll think it's just another loving message from his unsuspecting wife. But then again, he always did underestimate me. That's about to become his most expensive mistake. Little does he know, while he's been playing his games, I've been playing a much longer one. 8 years ago, when we first married, I continued making private investments with my inheritance money. The funds my grandmother left me that Thomas thought I'd spent on our wedding and honeymoon. He never bothered to ask about my family's investment portfolio. The one that made me financially independent long before I met him. The one that's now worth over $4. $2 million. Thomas always saw what he wanted to see. A supportive wife with a modest interior design business that I treated as a cute hobby. He never bothered to check that my little business has been featured in Architectural Digest twice and generates substantial income that I've quietly invested in my separate accounts. Tomorrow morning can't come soon enough. The morning after signing those initial papers, I dress with meticulous care. A crisp white Eileen Fisher blouse, tailored theory pants, and the Cartier watch I bought myself last year, though Thomas thinks he bought it for my birthday. The mirror reflects exactly what Thomas expects to see. His perfectly polished wife, the former art school graduate he loves to introduce as his beautiful creative partner at company functions. If only he knew I spent 4 years managing an investment portfolio for my family's foundation before we met. Good morning, darling, I call out as he stumbles into our kitchen, clearly distracted as he checks his phone, no doubt coordinating with Olivia about their impending escape. The coffee machine hums quietly, filling our $1, $2 million brownstone with the aroma of his favorite Ethiopian roast. I made your breakfast, I say, sliding his favorite avocado toast across our marble counter, the same counter where I'd sat until 2 a.m. last night on a secure call with my financial advisor, finalizing the protection of my assets. He kisses my cheek, reeking of expensive cologne and deceit. The same cologne I noticed on Olivia's scarf that she accidentally left in his car last month. You're too good to me, babe. If only you knew, I think, watching him wolf down the breakfast I prepared while checking flight details on his phone. His lock screen is still our vacation photo from Barcelona last year, but I know his background is Olivia. I've seen it reflected in the elevator mirrors when he texts her during our dinner dates. Another early meeting? I ask innocently, watching him check his watch. Yeah, the Johnson account is really demanding right now. He runs a hand through his perfectly styled hair, distracted. The Johnson account that closed 3 months ago. I've already confirmed this with his colleague James, who happens to be married to my best friend. Don't work too hard, I say, squeezing his shoulder. He doesn't notice me taking a photo of his phone screen in the reflection of our refrigerator's stainless steel surface, capturing Olivia's message about their lunch plans at the new Italian place downtown. After he leaves, I transform our home office into my command center. The framed photos of our wedding in Napa disappear into drawers, replaced by printouts of bank statements, property records, and screenshots of damning text messages. My friend Claire, a forensic accountant I've known since college, sits cross-legged on our imported wool rug, surrounded by papers. Jesus Christ, she mutters, holding up a document. Did he really think he could hide these transfers behind a fake consulting company? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. He registered it under his childhood dog's name, the one that died 12 years ago. Claire shakes her head, adding the paper to our growing evidence pile. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Men like him always think they're the smartest person in the room. That's because they never bother looking around, I reply, pulling up another document on my laptop. Look at this. Every time he meets Olivia, he files it as a business expense. 5-star hotels with a woman who's supposedly providing executive consulting, despite not knowing the difference between a P&L and a balance sheet. My phone buzzes, a group text from our friend Sarah about her upcoming housewarming party. Thomas responds immediately with another excuse. Olivia, I notice, has already marked herself unavailable on the Facebook event page. They're getting careless, I observe, adding another screenshot to my collection. Have you talked to Judge Williams yet? Claire asks, referring to our friend who oversees family court cases in our district. I nod, pulling up an encrypted email chain. She's ready. The moment we file tomorrow, she'll expedite the hearing. About the suspicious financial activities. My phone lights up with Thomas's face, his daily check-in call. I answer with practiced cheerfulness, listening to him lie about his lunch meeting while I stare at their restaurant reservation confirmation. In my email, the same email account he set up for me, thinking I'd only use it for online shopping. Miss you too, honey, I say, watching Claire roll her eyes. Don't forget we have dinner with my parents tonight. He pauses and I can practically hear him texting Olivia to reschedule. Of course, babe. Wouldn't miss it. After hanging up, I turn to Claire. He'll cancel in about 3 hours. Emergency client meeting. How can you be so sure? I pull up Olivia's Instagram story from this morning. A cryptic post about a special surprise dinner at the new steakhouse downtown. Because I know their routine better than they do. The rest of the day unfolds like a carefully choreographed ballet. I attend my regular client meetings for my interior design business, make appearances at my usual lunch spots, even get my nails done at the salon where Thomas's sister goes. Everything normal, everything routine. No one would suspect that in my Prada tote, I'm carrying documents that will dismantle a decade of Thomas's careful deceptions. Right on schedule, at 4:32 p.m., Thomas texts, "Baby, I'm so sorry, might have to rain check dinner with your parents. Emergency meeting with the Johnson team." I respond with just the right amount of disappointment and understanding, watching through my phone's banking alerts as he makes a dinner reservation at Morton's, his and Olivia's favorite spot for their strategy sessions. The Johnson team hasn't scheduled any meetings, Claire says dryly. I just confirmed with James. Look what just came in, my assistant Jessica says, holding up her phone. Olivia's posted a photo of champagne glasses at sunset, the distinctive Morton's glassware unmistakable in the background. Perfect, I say, adding the screenshot to our collection. That receipt will match beautifully with the emergency business dinner he's about to charge to our joint credit card. As evening falls, I sit in our meticulously decorated living room, the one I designed with custom furniture that Thomas always complains is too expensive, surrounded by evidence of his double life and my own careful documentation. Every lie, every secret meeting, every hidden bank transfer, all of it meticulously cataloged and cross-referenced. My phone buzzes with another Instagram notification. Olivia wearing a new Versace dress that costs more than her supposed monthly consulting fee, captioned with a single diamond emoji. I save it to the folder marked tomorrow and pour myself a glass of the Barolo from the collection Thomas thinks only he has access to in our wine cellar. Let them have their romantic evening, I murmur, scanning through the latest bank report my financial advisor sent over. Let them think they're the clever ones, playing their little game of hide and seek with the naive wife. I've spent months building this facade of ignorance, and in less than 12 hours, I'll have the pleasure of watching it shatter, along with everything else they thought they could take from me. The bank has confirmed the freeze will happen at 9 a.m. sharp, Claire calls from the kitchen where she's reviewing the final paperwork. Thomas's cards will decline mid-morning, just when he's probably taking Olivia shopping. I join her, my heels clicking against our hardwood floors. On her laptop screen, a complex web of transactions unfolds, a masterpiece of financial deceit that would be almost impressive if it wasn't so staggeringly stupid. He's been transferring money through 3 different shell companies, Claire explains, highlighting various transactions, all registered under variations of his dog's name, then funneling it through Olivia's fake consulting firm and into a Cayman Islands account. I lean closer, a cold smile playing at my lips. Show me the dates of the first transfers. Claire pulls up a timeline and my smile widens. Just as I thought. He started moving money the day after I mentioned updating our wills. He never even bothered to check the extent of my personal assets. My phone chimes with a message from Thomas's mother. Darling, are you and Thomas still coming to brunch on Sunday? I've made his favorite quiche. Poor Ellen, still believing her son is the same responsible man she raised, not someone who's been systematically draining their marital assets while planning an escape with his assistant. What about the co-mingling issue? Claire asks, pulling up another document. Section 8, paragraph 3. I quote from memory. Any jointly held assets removed with demonstrable intent to deprive the spouse can be subject to full recovery plus punitive damages. Claire's eyes gleam. And with Olivia's social media trail, every post, every photo, every location check-in. All matching perfectly with withdrawals and consulting payments, I confirm, pulling up a carefully curated folder on my laptop. They've documented their own misconduct better than we ever could. My phone lights up with another check-in from Thomas. Just wrapped the emergency meeting, baby? Might be a late one. So much paperwork to review. I text back. Don't work too hard, darling. Make sure you eat something. Through the window, I can see the lights of Morton's, knowing they're up there right now, celebrating what they think is their perfect deception. Thomas probably congratulating himself on how skillfully he's managed to hide his withdrawals from our joint accounts. Olivia, no doubt, already planning how to spend more of our money. Judge Williams just confirmed, Claire says, checking her phone. She's cleared her morning calendar. The moment we file, she'll expedite the hearing. I nod, walking to our floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sparkles back at me, a constellation of lights that seems to mirror the intricate web of evidence we've woven. Claire, I say, turning serious, are you absolutely sure about the timing? We could wait until after his company's annual gala next week. His whole team will be there. I turn back to her, thinking of the invitation I'd helped design. The lavish celebration planned at the Ritz, where Thomas intends to announce his fabricated promotion. The same party where he and Olivia plan to accidentally appear as colleagues before their sudden departure to Argentina. The timing, I say, picking up another stack of documents, is exactly right. Let him stand in front of his entire company, ready to make his big announcement. Claire raises an eyebrow. right before Judge Williams's bailiff serves him with the asset freeze and fraud investigation papers. Poetic, isn't it? My phone buzzes again, a text from Olivia to our charity committee group. So sorry to miss tomorrow's meeting, everyone. Last-minute client emergency. The same meeting where we're supposed to discuss the annual fundraiser that Thomas's company sponsors. I add the screenshot to our evidence file, then pull up our joint account's latest statement. The numbers glow on the screen. If he'd ever bothered to really look, he'd have noticed that I've been tracking every transaction, every transfer, every withdrawal for months. I've watched every dollar he's tried to hide, every account he's attempted to obscure, every lie he's built his house of cards upon, all while playing the role he assigned me. The beautiful, naive wife who couldn't possibly understand the complexities of financial management. His office just confirmed. Claire checks another message. Annual gala, 7 p.m. tomorrow. Thomas is supposed to present the company's new international expansion strategy. I smile, remembering the fabricated presentation he's been working on, the fake projections he's created to hide his planned disappearance with company resources. Perfect. That gives Judge Williams's team plenty of time to arrive by 7:30. My phone lights up one final time for the night, Thomas sending a photo of paperwork scattered across what's supposed to be his office desk, actually the Mortons' private dining room, their distinctive leather chairs visible in the corner. Still grinding, baby. Don't wait up. I text back a single heart emoji, then turn to Claire. Shall we finish preparing his wake-up call? For the next few hours, we meticulously review every document, every piece of evidence, every single detail of what's about to unfold. By the time Claire leaves, the sun is starting to rise over the city, painting our living room in shades of gold that match the embossed letterhead of the legal papers waiting to be filed. I hear Thomas's key in the door around 6 a.m. He tries to be quiet, but his designer shoes still click against the entryway tiles. I'm already in the kitchen, perfectly dressed, makeup flawless, starting the coffee maker. You're up early, he says, trying to hide his surprise and the faint trace of Olivia's signature Chanel perfume on his collar. Thought you could use some breakfast after your late night. I smile, sliding him a cup of coffee. Must have been some important client work. You know how it is. He waves vaguely, not meeting my eyes. Sometimes these things can't wait. Oh, darling, I think, watching him check his phone under the table, no doubt messaging Olivia about their close call. You have no idea how right you are. Just a few more hours until the gala, when they learn exactly what happens when you mistake silence for ignorance and underestimate the woman you thought you'd fooled. Gala day dawns clear and bright. I wake at precisely 6 a.m., though I've barely slept. Thomas's side of our Egyptian cotton sheets is empty. He'd left early, eager, to prepare for his big presentation at tonight's company gala. If he only knew what else was being prepared for him. I dress with surgical precision, a midnight blue Carolina Herrera gown that cost more than Thomas thinks I would ever spend on a dress, Louboutin heels that I purchased in Paris during a girls' weekend that actually included meetings with my investment advisor and my grandmother's sapphire earrings, a reminder of the family wealth that funded my secret portfolio. Morning, beautiful. Thomas's voice is unusually chipper when he calls at 7:30 a.m. Just wanted to check you're still coming to the gala tonight, right? Thought you might want to see your husband's big moment. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Darling, I reply, watching Elaine send confirmation that Judge Williams has arrived at her chambers. Someone should be there to witness everything you deserve. He chuckles, missing my tone completely. That's my girl. See you at 7. I end the call and pull up the security feed from Thomas's company headquarters. Amazing what being married to the CTO's sister grants you access to. Thomas is already there, practicing his presentation in an empty conference room, adjusting his Brooks Brothers tie with nervous fingers. On another screen, I watch Olivia enter her favorite coffee shop. no doubt planning to celebrate with Thomas after his triumph at the gala, before their planned departure to Buenos Aires tomorrow. Everything's in position, Claire texts. She's already at the courthouse with Elaine, waiting for the perfect moment. Judge Williams is reviewing the final documents now. I check my watch. 8:15 a.m., time to set the wheels in motion. My first stop is our bank's downtown branch, where I've been a familiar face since opening our joint accounts 8 years ago. Thomas never bothered to attend these meetings. Boring paperwork, he'd called it. His loss. Mrs. Wilson, Gregory, the private banking manager, greets me warmly. Everything is prepared as requested. I smile, taking a seat in his plush office. And the timing? He slides a document across his mahogany desk. The moment you send the signal, every account Thomas has access to will be flagged for review. The fraud investigation team is standing by. Perfect. I sign where indicated, my Mont Blanc pen, another of Thomas's guilt gifts, flowing smoothly across the paper. And his private accounts? The ones he thought were hidden from me. Gregory allows himself a small smile. Already under surveillance. The moment the fraud alert hits, those freeze too. My phone buzzes with a message from Ellen, Thomas's mother. Darling, I'm so excited for Thomas's presentation tonight. So proud of my boy, and so grateful to have you as part of our family. You've been such a blessing. If she only knew how much of a blessing I was about to be. Saving her from the embarrassment of her son's public disgrace by taking care of this privately, though no less definitively. At 6:45 p.m., I enter the grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton, nodding to familiar faces from Thomas's company. The room sparkles with crystal chandeliers and champagne flutes, the corporate elite of the city mingling in expensive evening wear. Thomas is waiting near the entrance, practically bouncing with nervous energy. You made it. He kisses my cheek, and I catch a whiff of Olivia's perfume still lingering on his collar. I've got such a good feeling about tonight. Oh, darling, I murmur, straightening his tie. You have no idea how memorable tonight is going to be. The ballroom fills quickly with executives and their partners. Richard Hartman, the CEO, takes his place at the podium looking every bit the corporate titan in his tailored tuxedo. If only his executives inherited his integrity along with his business acumen. Before we begin, Richard announces, I want to thank everyone for being here for this momentous occasion. As you know, we're here to discuss the global expansion of Wilson Financial Group, and our own Thomas Wilson has prepared a comprehensive presentation on our new international strategy. Thomas stands, straightening his papers with practiced confidence. His PowerPoint presentation glows on the screen behind him, slides full of fake projections and manipulated numbers that took him weeks to fabricate. Good evening, everyone, he begins, flashing his 1,000-watt smile. Tonight marks a new chapter in Wilson Financial's legacy. 8:59 p.m. My phone vibrates silently in my lap. Claire's message is simple. Ready. 9:00 p.m. Thomas clicks to his first slide, pointing out fabricated growth projections with practiced charm. As you can see, our expansion strategy under my guidance has been exceptional. 9:01 p.m. I send a single text. Now. The effect is immediate, but subtle at first. Thomas's phone buzzes in his pocket, probably a notification from his banking app. He ignores it, continuing his presentation. It buzzes again, and again, and again. 9:03 p.m. The ballroom door opens silently. Judge Williams's bailiff enters, nodding to me imperceptibly. Behind him, 2 federal investigators take their places by the door. And if you'll look at these returns, Thomas continues, though his phone is now buzzing constantly. He's starting to look distracted, shifting uncomfortably. You'll see that our innovative approach to... His voice trails off as he notices Richard checking his own phone, frowning deeply. Other executives are doing the same, their expressions shifting from polite attention to confused concern. 9:05 p.m. The bailiff steps forward, official documents in hand. "Mr. Thomas Wilson?" Thomas turns, annoyed at the interruption of his big moment. "I'm in the middle of something here." "You are hereby served with an emergency injunction regarding fraudulent financial activities," the bailiff announces clearly, his voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent ballroom. "By order of Judge Williams, you are suspended from all access to Wilson financial accounts and assets pending investigation into serious allegations of embezzlement and wire fraud." The color drains from Thomas's face as he takes the papers, with trembling hands. His phone is still buzzing, probably notifications of his accounts being frozen one by one. "There must be some mistake," he stammers, looking around the room desperately. His eyes land on me, seeking support, reassurance, the naive trust he's come to expect. Instead, he finds me calmly opening my laptop, pulling up the folders marked evidence. "No mistake, darling," I say softly, turning the screen so the entire room can see. "Would you like to explain these transactions to your colleagues yourself? Or shall I?" The first image appears on the ballroom's main screen, replacing his fabricated presentation, a detailed spreadsheet of every dollar he's stolen, every lie he's told, every trust he's broken. Behind him, Richard Hartman stands slowly, his face a mask of shock and growing fury. "Thomas," his boss's voice is deadly quiet. "What is this?" Before he can answer, his phone buzzes one final time. He looks at it reflexively, and I know exactly what he's seeing: a notification that his access to all Wilson financial accounts has been suspended. "Perhaps," I suggest, standing smoothly, "we should discuss the real state of the international expansion funds, starting with these unusual payments to a certain consulting firm." Thomas slumps into his chair as I take control of the presentation. Remote. Behind him, the federal investigators begin setting up their equipment. Through the ballroom's glass doors, I can see Elaine and Claire arriving with boxes of additional evidence. The day of reckoning has only just begun. "Let's start with this particular transaction," I say, clicking to the next slide. The ballroom. Screen fills with a detailed breakdown of a $175,000 transfer from the company's International Development Fund to Olivia's consulting firm, made on April 12th, exactly one day after her company was registered. Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? Thomas's hands grip the armrests of his chair, knuckles white. Behind him, Richard Hartman has switched from shock to cold fury, his jaw clenched as he watches his protégé's deceptions laid bare. "Of course," I continue, clicking through to the next slide. "That was just the beginning. Shall we discuss the offshore accounts registered under your childhood pet's name? Or perhaps the series of business development charges at the Four Seasons that coincidentally match perfectly with these Instagram posts?" The screen fills with a carefully curated collection of Olivia's social media posts side by side with company expenditures, times, and dates perfectly aligned. Each champagne toast, each surprise gift, each luxury weekend mathematically matched, with a suspicious withdrawal. "This is ridiculous," Thomas finally manages, his voice cracking. "These are legitimate business expenses. Richard, I can explain." "Explain what, exactly?" I interrupt smoothly, pulling up another document. "How you started embezzling from the company the day after your promotion. Or should we discuss how you've been using corporate funds to finance your affair while planning to flee the country?" A gasp ripples through the ballroom. Ellen Wilson. Thomas's mother presses a hand to her chest, her face pale beneath her perfect makeup. "Flee the country?" she whispers. "Thomas, what is she talking about?" "Oh, you didn't know." I turn to my mother-in-law with practiced sympathy. "Thomas and his financial consultant have quite the future planned, booked with stolen money, of course. Would you like to see the Buenos Aires reservations?" The apartment rental agreement? Or perhaps the draft resignation letter his assistant prepared last week? Thomas lunges for his phone, probably to warn Olivia, but it's already too late. Through the ballroom's glass doors, we can see her being escorted into the building by security, her designer handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. Perfect timing, I murmur, checking my watch. Hotel security does run quite punctually. Security? Thomas's voice rises an octave. What did you really think? I cut in, my voice carrying clearly across the stunned ballroom. That you could embezzle hundreds of thousands from a financial institution without consequences? That no one would notice your creative accounting? The federal investigators have set up their equipment now, efficiently downloading data from Thomas's company laptop. Elaine stands at the ready with another stack of documents, the complete forensic accounting of every dollar Thomas has stolen. Mrs. Wilson, one of the investigators calls out, "We've confirmed the initial findings. The pattern of misappropriation is consistent with your report." Thomas's head snaps up. Your report? Who do you think has been documenting your theft all these months? I ask quietly. Who do you think has been tracking every lie, every secret meeting, every hidden transaction? The wife you thought was too naive to understand finance? The trophy you believed would never question your business meetings. His phone buzzes again, probably Olivia being brought to the conference room for questioning. Through the glass, I can see her mascara-streaked face as she realizes the magnitude of their situation. I can fix this. Thomas stands abruptly, desperation creeping into his voice. Richard, just let me explain. We can handle this internally. Sit down. Richard Hartman's voice could freeze hell itself. You've done quite enough. Actually, I interject, pulling up another document. We're just getting started. Would anyone like to see the company's actual international expansion fund? The one Thomas has been draining while presenting his creative fiction? The next hour unfolds like a perfectly choreographed dance. With each new revelation, each piece of evidence, each damning document, Thomas shrinks further into his chair. His carefully constructed world of lies crumbles slide by slide, dollar by dollar. The Cayman Islands accounts have been frozen. Claire announces from the doorway, and Judge Williams has approved the emergency audit of all personal assets. Thomas's head snaps up. Personal assets? You can't. Corporate fraud statutes, Section 12, Paragraph 4. I quote smoothly. Any personal assets potentially purchased with or connected to misappropriated corporate funds can be immediately frozen pending full investigation. A commotion outside draws everyone's attention. Olivia is being led to a separate room, her face a mask of panic as she realizes the serious nature of her situation. Through the glass, I watch her reach for her phone, probably to call the lawyer she thinks can save her. Don't bother, I call out, loud enough for her to hear through the glass. Your lawyer dropped you 20 minutes ago. Apparently, he has some concerns about being associated with corporate fraud. Thomas stands again, this time moving toward the door, but the federal agents shift smoothly to block his path. This is insane. You can't just... Can't what? I ask, my voice deadly quiet. Protect the company from your greed? Prevent you from stealing more of your colleagues' hard work? Or perhaps you're upset that I won't let you drain the accounts to fund your new life with Olivia. I click to the next slide, and Thomas actually flinches. It's a photo from last week. Him and Olivia at the passport office, expediting their documents, the company credit card receipt for the fees still pending in the system. Passport expediting? Ellen Wilson's voice is barely a whisper. While still married to Catherine? Speaking of marriage, I continue, pulling up another document. Thomas, darling, why don't you explain to everyone why you've been meeting with divorce attorneys? Or should I share the settlement offer you had drafted that would leave me with virtually nothing? The ballroom is deadly silent now. every eye fixed on Thomas as he realizes just how completely his plans have imploded. Richard stands slowly, every inch the powerful CEO whose trust his employee has betrayed. "Get him out of my sight," Richard orders, his voice trembling with rage. "And call corporate security. All of them." As security begins to escort Thomas from the ballroom, his phone buzzes one final time. I know exactly what notification he's receiving. His access to the Wilson financial offices has been revoked, his keycard deactivated, his credentials suspended. "One more thing," I call out just as he reaches the door. "You might want to pack a bag when you get home. The brownstone belongs jointly to us, and as of 9 minutes ago, you're legally barred from accessing joint property pending the fraud investigation." Thomas turns, his face a mask of disbelief. "Where am I supposed to go?" I smile, remembering all the nights I lay awake while he was with Olivia, planning this very moment. "Perhaps you could stay at the Four Seasons? Oh wait, your credit cards have all been frozen. Well, I'm sure Olivia would offer her sofa, but..." I glance meaningfully at the federal agents leading her to questioning. She might be a bit preoccupied. As Thomas is led away, Ellen approaches me, tears in her eyes. "Catherine, I'm so sorry. We had no idea he was..." "It's not your fault." I squeeze her hand gently. "You raised a good son. He just made very, very bad choices." Claire appears at my side with another update. "Judge Williams wants to see you, and the forensic accountants have found 3 more shell companies." I nod, gathering my things as the federal agents continue their work. Through the glass walls, I can see Thomas being escorted to the lobby, his world collapsing around him. His phone is probably exploding with notifications: frozen accounts, canceled cards, suspended memberships, revoked access. "Mrs. Wilson," one of the federal agents approaches, "will need a statement about the corporate fund discrepancies." "Of course," I reply, smoothing my dress as I stand. "I believe I have everything you need right here." I pat my clutch, filled with months of careful documentation, weeks of meticulous planning, and years of quiet observation. Thomas thought he was so clever, playing his games with the company's money, while his trophy wife smiled quietly at his side. He never realized that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear the most. The next few hours unfold like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of consequences. From my temporary office in the Ritz-Carlton's executive suite, I watch the dominoes continue to fall through multiple screens and live feeds. His attempt to access the Cayman accounts was just denied, Claire reports, monitoring the financial alerts. He tried using his backup passwords, the ones he thought nobody knew about. I smile, remembering how easy it was to find those passwords scribbled in his passport holder, the one he kept in his closet safe behind our bedroom's abstract painting. How many attempts? 5 so far, each one triggering another alert to the financial authorities. My phone buzzes with a notification from our home security system. Thomas has arrived at the brownstone, probably hoping to grab some essentials before the locks are changed. Through the camera feed, I watch him frantically shoving designer suits into his luggage, the same suits I helped him select, each one paid for with stolen money he'll soon have to account for. "Should we tell him about the asset freeze?" Claire asks, watching the feed over my shoulder. "Let him figure it out," I reply, turning my attention to another screen showing the federal investigators interviewing Olivia. Her confident facade has crumbled completely now, mascara streaking down her face as she realizes the full implications of her role in Thomas's scheme. "Mrs. Wilson," Elaine enters with a fresh stack of documents. "The company's security team just called. They've completed the initial audit of Thomas's work accounts." I raise an eyebrow. "And?" "He's been skimming from more than just the international fund. They found irregular transfers from the pension plan, the employee healthcare fund, even the holiday charity drive." Ellen Wilson, who's been sitting quietly in the corner trying to process the evening's events, lets out a small sob. "The charity drive? For children's cancer research? I moved to comfort my mother-in-law, the woman who welcomed me into her family with open arms 8 years ago. We've already reversed the transfers, Ellen. The donations are secure. My phone lights up with another notification. Thomas trying to check into the Marriott using his Amex Black card. I can almost see the color drain from his face as the card is declined. Through various feeds and alerts, I track his increasingly desperate attempts. The Hilton declined. The Hyatt declined. The Holiday Inn declined. His lawyer just dropped him, Claire announces, checking her messages. Apparently, he tried to pay the retainer with one of the frozen accounts. The firm has concerns about being paid with potentially fraudulent funds. A commotion in the hallway draws our attention. Through the glass walls, we see Olivia being escorted out by hotel security, her designer handbag now filled with copies of her sworn statement. The look she shoots toward the executive suite could freeze hell itself. She gave them everything, Elaine confirms, reviewing the preliminary report. Every meeting, every transaction, every promise he made. Turns out self-preservation trumps loyalty when federal charges are on the table. My phone buzzes again. A group text from our social circle about the upcoming charity gala at the City Museum. Thomas's sister Jennifer has already removed him from the planning committee. His name disappears from the guest list in real time. His social world crumbling as quickly as his financial one. The fraud team just found something interesting, Claire calls out, her eyes wide as she reads from her tablet. Remember those business development trips to Grand Cayman? I turn, to her intrigued. The ones where he claimed to be meeting with potential investors. He was actually viewing properties. High-end villas on the beach, all conveniently far from extradition treaties. They found incomplete purchase agreements on his company laptop. Ellen's head snaps up. He was planning to run with stolen money? But don't worry, I confirm gently. He won't get the chance now. As if on cue, my phone shows another alert. Thomas's passport has been flagged. No international travel without court approval. His world is shrinking by the minute. His options disappearing one by one. The company's crisis management team is ready, Elaine informs us. They've prepared statements for the press, the financial community, and major clients. I nod, pulling up the draft announcements on my laptop. The careful wording presents Wilson Financial as victims of Thomas's deception, while emphasizing their swift action to protect client assets. No mention of my role. Exactly as I planned. Catherine, Ellen speaks up, her voice stronger now. The annual family reunion is next month. With Thomas's situation, perhaps you should. Before I can respond, my phone buzzes with an urgent message from the Brownstone security team. Thomas is trying to access his home office safe, the one he thinks contains emergency cash and backup credit cards. Don't worry, I assure Ellen, watching Thomas's frustrated attempts through the security feed. I already emptied that safe. Last week, everything of value is secure in my private vault. Claire's tablet pings with another update. The forensic team just found his deleted emails. You're not going to believe what he was planning for after the Buenos Aires escape. I turn to the large screen on the wall, now displaying a complex web of Thomas's intended post-escape financial manipulations. Even I'm impressed by the audacity, if not the intelligence, of his schemes. He was going to claim the company violated tax laws, Claire explains, highlighting various documents, threatened to report irregularities to the IRS unless they paid him a massive settlement. Ellen gasps. He would blackmail his own colleagues? The people who trusted him? He would try, I correct her, pulling up another document. But that would have been difficult considering I've had tax experts reviewing and certifying every company transaction he touched for the past 6 months. My phone lights up with another notification, Thomas's attempt to access his cryptocurrency accounts. Sorry, darling, I murmur to the screen. Those wallets were transferred to my secure digital vault last week, along with everything else you thought you'd hidden so cleverly. Through the office windows, I can see the city lights twinkling against the night sky. In the reflection, I catch glimpses of federal agents still combing through files, forensic accountants tracking down every missing dollar, and company lawyers protecting hundreds of employees from one man's greed. Mrs. Wilson, a senior federal's investigator, approaches. We found evidence of potentially criminal transactions dating back 3 years. We'll need your statement about when you first noticed irregularities. I retrieve a carefully prepared timeline from my clutch. I believe you'll find everything documented here. Every transaction, every unauthorized transfer, every attempt to circumvent corporate protocols. As the investigators continue their work, I receive one final notification for the day. Thomas, having been denied access to every decent hotel in the city, has checked into a budget motel near the airport, paid for with borrowed cash since his accounts remain frozen. Should we tell him about tomorrow? Claire asks, referring to the emergency board meeting where Thomas will be formally terminated from Wilson Financial. I shake my head, watching his location dot on my phone's map, so far from the privileged world he's always known. Let him sleep tonight, thinking he can still fix this. Tomorrow's revelations deserve a fresh audience. Ellen stands, gathering her composure along with her Chanel bag. Catherine, we can never thank you enough for protecting the company, for stopping him. Before he destroyed everything your family helped build, I finished gently. Ellen, when you welcomed me into your family, you made me a Wilson. I protect what's mine. As the office slowly empties, I remain at my temporary desk, surrounded by evidence of Thomas's betrayal and my own careful preparation. On one screen, I watch him pacing in his motel room, probably trying to figure out how his perfect plan imploded so spectacularly. On another, I see Olivia checking into a flight to her parents' home in Phoenix, her dreams of becoming Mrs. Wilson evaporating. Like morning mist, my phone buzzes one last time. Tom is trying to salvage something from the wreckage of his life. Baby, please, we need to talk. I can explain everything. I smile, thinking of all the nights I lay awake listening to his lies about working, late while I quietly built the case that would bring him down. No need to explain, darling, I text back. The federal investigators have all the explanations they need. Then I turn off my phone, gather my things, and prepare to head home to the brownstone that now belongs solely to me. Tomorrow will bring more revelations, more consequences, more dismantling of Thomas's carefully constructed house of cards. But tonight, I'll sleep soundly in our king-sized bed, alone but victorious, while my husband learns what happens when you mistake quiet patience for weakness and underestimate the woman who held the real power all along. Tuesday morning brings the kind of headlines you can't buy with public relations spin. Wilson financial executive suspended amid fraud allegations. Corporate scandal rocks financial district. Embezzlement scheme exposed during company gala. I read them all from the comfort of my home office in the brownstone, sipping the rare Japanese matcha that Thomas always claimed was too extravagant for my unsophisticated palate. The irony of enjoying his precious collection while watching his world burn isn't lost on me. The financial community is in an uproar, Claire announces, entering with a fresh stack of financial papers. 3 other investment firms have already requested fraud audits of their own executives. Apparently, Thomas's scheme has everyone questioning their own financial officers. His mother's on her way up, Elaine adds, checking her phone. The doorman just called. I nod, setting down my teacup. Ellen Wilson has always been the family's emotional compass, and I know this meeting won't be easy for her. Catherine, Ellen sweeps in, still elegant despite her obvious distress. The press, have you seen the latest? They're calling it the financial takedown of the decade. I guide her to the sitting area, noting how her eyes linger on the empty spaces where Thomas's photos once hung. The media will move on to the next scandal soon enough. What matters is protecting the company and the employees' jobs. The forensic accountants found something else, she says quietly, pulling out a folder. Something worse. I take the documents, though I already know what they'll show. Thomas hadn't just been stealing from the company. He'd been systematically looting his family's personal accounts, his sister's children's college funds, his parents' retirement reserves, even his grandfather's medical care account. We knew he was troubled, but this... Ellen's voice breaks. His own family? Everything will be restored, I assure her, pulling up the recovery plan I'd prepared months ago. Every account has been reconciled, every stolen dollar traced and returned. My phone buzzes with an update from the federal investigation team. They've found Thomas's secret storage unit in Brooklyn. Inside, boxes of falsified documents detail years of financial manipulation. All the evidence they need for criminal charges. Mrs. Wilson, my assistant calls from the doorway. Mr. Thomas is in the lobby demanding to be let up. He's not taking no for an answer. I pull up the security feed on my laptop. Thomas, disheveled and desperate, is arguing with the doorman. His Brooks Brothers suit, the one he wore to so many client meetings with Olivia, is wrinkled from a night in the airport motel. Should I call security? The assistant asks. No need, I reply, pressing a button on my phone. The police are already on their way. Anonymous tip about a person of interest in a federal fraud investigation causing a disturbance. Ellen flinches at my words but doesn't object. Even a mother's love has its limits. The board meeting is starting in an hour, Claire reminds me, checking her calendar. They'll want your statement about the evidence you provided. I nod, gathering my materials. In the background, my screens show multiple scenes unfolding simultaneously. Thomas being escorted from the building by police, Olivia giving another tearful interview painting herself as another victim of his deception, federal agents boxing up evidence from his office, financial columnists speculating about the scandal's impact on the market. Catherine, Ellen speaks up suddenly. There's something I need to tell you about why Richard made you head of the charity foundation 3 years ago. I turn to my mother-in-law, curious. This is one piece of the puzzle I never fully understood. We knew, she says simply, about Thomas's tendencies. The impulsive spending, the risky investments, the constant need for more. Richard saw it happening at the company, watched him taking bigger and bigger risks with client money. So you needed someone to keep an eye on the foundation funds, I finish quietly. Ellen nods, tears in her eyes. We interviewed dozens of financial experts, considered professional trustees from all the top firms, but Richard said we needed someone Thomas would underestimate, someone he'd never suspect of watching his every move. The trophy wife he thought he'd chosen for her looks rather than her mind, I add, understanding dawning. When we learned about your background in investments, your experience with portfolio management, Ellen manages a small smile. Well, let's just say Richard has always had an eye for talent. My phone buzzes again, more updates flooding in. Thomas's membership at the downtown club revoked, his position on the hospital board suspended, his private banking privileges at multiple institutions terminated, his invitation to next month's charity gala rescinded. His lawyer sent over a proposal, Elaine mentions, holding up another document. He's offering to sign a full confession in exchange for a monthly allowance from your joint assets. I almost laugh at the audacity. Let me guess, he still thinks he has something to negotiate with? He's claiming he has evidence of historical company irregularities, says he'll go public if we don't meet his demands. This time I do laugh, pulling up a particular file on my laptop. You mean these documents? I turn the screen to show decades of pristine company records, each transaction verified, each decision documented, the ones I've had independent auditors reviewing and certifying for the past 6 months. Through the window, I watch as Thomas is driven away in a police car, his final attempt at blackmail failing as spectacularly as his other schemes. On my other screens, Wilson Financial continues operating smoothly, the transition of leadership already complete. The board is ready, my assistant announces. They're waiting in the main conference room downtown. I gather my things, preparing to officially present my evidence to the company's leadership. Ellen stands with me, straightening her shoulders with renewed strength. "Catherine," she says softly, "thank you. Not just for stopping him, but for saving him from himself. If he'd continued much longer, the damage would have been irreparable." "To the company and beyond," I finish. "I know. That's why I had to act now." As we head to the car, my phone shows one final notification for the morning. Thomas checking into an even cheaper motel, this time in New Jersey. How far the mighty have fallen. "Mrs. Wilson," Elaine calls out, "Judge Williams's office just confirmed the emergency hearing is set for tomorrow morning. They'll want your full testimony about the financial manipulation." I nod, already prepared. My evidence is organized, my statement drafted, my strategy in place. Tomorrow, Thomas will learn the full extent of his mistakes, not just the financial theft, but the fatal error of underestimating the woman he married. "One last thing," Claire adds. "The company's PR team wants to know how to handle the press. They're calling you everything from financial avenger to corporate guardian." "Tell them no comment," I reply, stepping into the waiting town car. The numbers speak for themselves. As we drive to the Wilson Financial headquarters, I think about the day Thomas first brought me home to meet his family. How he introduced me as his beautiful interior design graduate, emphasizing my looks while dismissing my mind. How he never bothered to check my credentials, never questioned. Why Richard chose his new daughter-in-law for the foundation position. His last text message still sits unanswered on my phone. "Please, baby, just tell me what you want. I'll do anything." Too late, Thomas. Too late by exactly 2 years, 8 months, and 23 days. The time it took me to document every lie, trace every theft, and prepare for this moment of perfect justice. The boardroom doors open, revealing the assembled Wilson Financial executives. Time to show them exactly why Richard chose me to protect their company, and why Thomas's biggest mistake wasn't stealing from Wilson Financial, but underestimating the woman who controlled it all along. 2 weeks later, the dust has finally begun to settle. I sit in my new office, the corner suite that once belonged to Thomas, reviewing the latest portfolio performance reports. The city skyline stretches out before me, a glittering testament to the financial district that Thomas nearly disgraced with his actions. "The Wall Street Journal piece just went live," Claire announces, entering with her tablet. Today's headline: Wilson Financial Revival, How Strategic Oversight Saved a Company. "Any mention of Thomas?" I ask, though I already know the answer. "Only as a cautionary tale. They're calling it the ultimate case study in corporate governance. Your quotes about financial responsibility are featured prominently." I smile, remembering the interview I'd given last week. I'd been careful to focus on the importance of proper oversight rather than personal drama. Wilson Financial, after all, still had a reputation to maintain. My phone lights up with a notification from the federal prosecutor's office. Thomas's plea deal has been finalized. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he's agreed to provide evidence against larger financial fraud schemes he'd become entangled with. "His new accommodations are quite a step down from the Four Seasons," Claire observes dryly, showing me the detention center's location. Though I hear the jumpsuit orange brings out his eyes. "Olivia sent another request," Elaine adds, entering, with more papers. She's offering to write a tell-all about Thomas's schemes in exchange for immunity. "Tell her the federal prosecutors already have everything they need," I reply, pulling up our evidence files. Her Instagram posts provided more than enough documentation. Through my office windows, I can see the company's investment team hard at work under new leadership. They've already recovered every dollar Thomas stole, plus implemented new safeguards to prevent future manipulation. "Mrs. Wilson," my assistant calls over the intercom. The board is ready for your quarterly presentation. I gather my materials, including the comprehensive reform package I've spent weeks developing. Wilson Financial won't just survive this crisis, it will emerge stronger, setting new standards for corporate governance. Catherine, Richard Hartman greets me warmly as I enter the boardroom. He's fully recovered from his shock now, his natural vigor restored once the stress of Thomas's betrayal was removed. The Harvard Business School case study about your handling of the crisis just went live. I join him at a quiet corner table, accepting a glass of water. How's Ellen holding? Up? Better, he sighs. The therapist says accepting Thomas's true nature was the first step. Your protection of the company gave her the space to focus on healing. My phone shows another alert. Thomas's former office has been completely transformed into the Wilson Center for Financial Ethics. The plaque outside reads, "Protecting Legacy Through Integrity." The lawyers finished processing the last of his restitution payments. Elaine approaches with more updates. Every dollar he stole has been recovered and reinvested. Through the boardroom windows, I can see the city skyline, the same view. Thomas used to boast about controlling from his corner office. Now, that same office serves as command central for protecting investors from people like him. The financial media is calling it the Wilson Standard. Claire shows me another article. Your protocols for corporate governance are being adopted by firms across the country. I think about the day Thomas first showed me the Wilson Financial offices, how he patronizingly explained the concept of investment banking while I mentally cataloged every weakness in their security system. Your next appointment is here, my assistant announces. The Morgan Stanley representatives want to discuss implementing your oversight systems. As I prepare for the meeting, my security feed shows one last image of Thomas's former life being dismantled, his prized art collection being auctioned to repay his debt to the company, the same collection he used to lecture me about, never, realizing I double majored in both art history and finance. Judge Williams called, Elaine adds. She's recommending your case as required reading for financial court judges. Says it's the most comprehensive fraud protection strategy she's ever seen. My phone buzzes with a notification from the Federal Detention Center. Thomas has requested permission to enroll in online financial management courses. Trying to understand where I went wrong, his note reads. Should we tell him about the Foundation's new educational program? Claire asks, the one teaching business students how to detect and prevent internal fraud. Let him figure it out, I reply, straightening my jacket. He always said he learned best through experience. Ellen joins us, elegant as ever in her role as family matriarch. The Charity Gala Committee has a suggestion. They want to honor you as guardian of integrity. I shake my head, remembering all the galas where Thomas paraded me around like an accessory. No honors. The secured company speaks for itself. Through my phone, I watch various scenes unfold across the city. Federal investigators using my case to train new financial crime specialists, business schools teaching the Wilson case as a masterclass in corporate protection, financial advisors studying my oversight protocols. One last thing, Claire calls out as I head to my next meeting. Thomas's old country club is reopening their membership waitlist. Asked if we'd like to submit his replacement's name. I smile, thinking of all the times he used that club to impress his mistresses, flaunting the wealth he was secretly stealing. I have a better idea. Let's turn it into another foundation office. Something about financial literacy for future generations. The afternoon sun streams through the office windows, catching the diamond on my left hand. Not my engagement ring from Thomas, but my grandmother's ring, a symbol of true family legacy. On my desk, the latest portfolio reports show growth that would have been impossible under Thomas's manipulation. Mrs. Wilson, my assistant interrupts gently, the Financial Times is here for your interview about transforming corporate governance. I gather my thoughts, remembering every step of this journey. The quiet wife who watched and waited, the financial expert who documented every lie, The executive who protected hundreds of jobs. The woman who refused to be underestimated. My phone shows one final notification for the day. Thomas's lawyer making a last desperate pitch for leniency. He's a changed man, the message pleads. He understands now what he lost. Too late, I think, heading to the interview. Some lessons come at a price no golden parachute can cover. As I take my seat across from the journalist, I catch my reflection in the window. No longer the trophy wife Thomas thought he married, but the guardian of integrity he never knew he needed. The reporter's first question makes me smile. Mrs. Wilson, how does it feel to have revolutionized corporate protection? It feels, I reply, thinking of Thomas in his cell, finally learning the true meaning of accountability. Exactly like justice. 3 months to the day after Thomas's downfall, I stand in my office at Wilson Tower, watching the sun rise over the city. The view is different from up here, both literally and figuratively. The past quarter has transformed not just Wilson Financial, but the entire landscape of corporate governance. My phone lights up with the morning's first notification. Forbes magazine has just released their annual Most Influential in Finance issue. The cover story, The Woman Who Changed Corporate Governance Forever, Catherine Wilson's Revolution. The Times piece just went live too, Claire announces, entering with her signature stack of updates. They're calling you the silent guardian of investor trust. I scan the headline, amused by the irony. A year ago, these same publications barely noticed me. Just another pretty wife in the financial district's social circus. Now they're studying my methods in business schools. Thomas's latest letter arrived. Elaine adds quietly, placing a thin envelope on my desk. Unlike his early, desperate pleas, this one is different. A simple, handwritten confession of every mistake, every betrayal, every moment of hubris that led to his downfall. He's finally completed the financial ethics program in prison, Claire mentions, checking her tablet. Graduated top of his class, ironically enough. Says he finally understands what he was supposed to be protecting. Through my office windows, I can see the bustling financial district, the same streets where Thomas once strutted like a prince, never realizing he was walking toward his own destruction. Now, those same streets are home to a new era of financial oversight, shaped by the lessons of his fall. The Wilson Foundation's annual report is ready for review, my assistant announces. The new ethics programs have reached over 5,000 financial professionals this quarter. I take the report, pleased to see the impact of our work. What Thomas tried to destroy has become a beacon of financial wisdom, helping other companies protect their legacies from similar threats. Ellen's on her way up, Elaine informs me. The Family Foundation approved your proposal for the new governance structure. When my mother-in-law enters, she carries herself with renewed strength. The past months have changed her too, from a woman blindsided by her son's betrayal to a fierce advocate for financial accountability. Catherine, she begins, emotion thick in her voice. What you've built from this tragedy, it's beyond anything we could have imagined. My phone buzzes with updates that underscore her words. 3 more financial institutions adopting the Wilson protocols. 2 international banking conferences requesting keynote speeches. 1 prestigious corporate governance award nomination. Olivia sent another interview request, Claire mentions. She's writing a book about financial infidelity. Wants your perspective. I decline with a simple email. Some stories don't need more telling. They need understanding. The portfolio performance reports are in, Elaine adds, pulling up the latest figures. Growth is up 35% since you took control. Every dollar Thomas stole has been recovered and multiplied. Through my security feeds, I can see multiple scenes playing out. Business school students studying the Wilson case, financial advisors implementing my protection protocols, corporate boards reviewing their security measures, future generations learning from Thomas's mistakes. His parole hearing is next month, Claire reminds me gently. They want to know if you'll submit a statement. I consider this, remembering every step of our journey. The quiet wife who watched and learned, the expert who documented every lie, the guardian who protected a legacy, the woman who refused to be underestimated. Send them this, I decide, pulling up the company's latest performance report. Let the numbers speak for themselves. Ellen touches my arm gently. He asks about you, in his letters. Says he finally understands what he had. Not just the money, but the trust. Some lessons, I reply, watching a new class of financial advisors enter the Wilson Center for Financial Ethics below. Come too late to change the past, but early enough to protect the future. My phone shows one final update. Thomas's old office has been completely transformed into a state-of-the-art financial security center. The plaque outside reads, "Protecting Tomorrow's Legacy Today." The next generation of Wilson interns starts their financial education program tomorrow, Claire reminds me. Would you like to speak to them? I think about these young professionals, the future of finance that Thomas betrayed with his actions. Thanks to our new protocols, they'll grow up understanding not just the privilege of wealth, but the responsibility of trust. Tell them the truth, I decide, about integrity, betrayal, and the price of underestimating those we dismiss. As the sun sets on another day in the financial district, I stand at my office window, holding Thomas's final letter. In it, he finally asks the question that took him a fortune and his freedom to understand. How did I not see who you really were? The answer, of course, was simple. He never looked past his own reflection. My phone shows one last notification. Wilson. Financial has just been named a gold standard in corporate governance. The legacy Thomas tried to destroy has emerged stronger, wiser, and more secure than ever. Mrs. Wilson, my assistant calls out, they're ready for you in the boardroom. The new executive team is waiting. I gather my materials, preparing to teach tomorrow's leaders the lessons learned from yesterday's mistakes. Through the window, the city glitters like the fortune I protected. Beautiful, powerful, and worth every moment of patient waiting. As I head to the boardroom, I pass the wall of Wilson Financial founders. Thomas's portrait has been replaced by something more meaningful. A simple plaque that reads, "True wealth lies not in what we possess, but in what we protect." Some must learn this lesson through loss. Others are chosen to teach it through strength. In the end, Thomas got exactly what he deserved. Time to contemplate the true cost of underestimating a woman he thought he could control. And I got what I earned. A legacy protected, a company restored, and a future secured by the quiet power of patient justice. The story of Wilson Financial will be told for generations, not as a tragedy of betrayal, but as a testament to the strength that lies in being underestimated. And somewhere in a federal prison cell, Thomas finally understands the most expensive lesson of his life. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one you should have feared the most. 6 months after Thomas's sentencing, I stand at the podium of the National Financial Ethics Forum, addressing a room full of the country's most prominent executives and regulators. The irony isn't lost on me. Speaking about financial integrity, to the same industry that once dismissed me as nothing more than a decorative accessory on Thomas's arm. The greatest threat to institutional trust, I tell them, my voice carrying clearly through the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, isn't external competition or market volatility. It's the complacency that comes from believing your position is untouchable. The audience hangs on every word. After all, the Wilson Financial case has become required reading at top business schools across the country. Mrs. Wilson, one of the senior partners from Goldman Sachs, approaches after my speech. Your insights on corporate governance are revolutionary. Would you consider joining our advisory board? I smile, remembering how Thomas used to explain basic investment concepts to me at parties like this. I'll have my office send over my credentials. Claire appears at my elbow with updates from the morning's developments. 5 more corporations requesting our oversight protocols. 3 interview requests from financial publications. 1 desperate letter from Thomas still trying to explain himself from federal prison. The Ethics Foundation launch is trending, she adds, showing me her tablet. They're calling it a paradigm shift in financial sector management. My phone buzzes with a message from Ellen Wilson. The family's annual holiday gathering is approaching. And for the first time in generations, it will celebrate not just prosperity but integrity. The prosecutors sent over Thomas's latest statement. Elaine joins us, tablet in hand. He's finally admitted to everything, even the schemes we hadn't uncovered yet. I take the tablet, scanning his confession. The depth of his betrayal still manages to surprise me. Hidden cryptocurrency wallets, shell companies in Luxembourg, plans to drain the employee pension fund. His cellmate says he spends his days reading financial ethics journals, Claire mentions. Apparently, he's finally learning about proper corporate responsibility. Better late than never. A notification pops up on my phone. Olivia has resurfaced, this time teaching mindful money management at a community college in Arizona. Her Instagram bio now reads, "Surviving Toxic Wealth, My Journey to Authenticity." At least someone learned something. The foundation board meeting is in an hour, my assistant reminds me. They're voting on the new ethics structure you proposed. I gather my materials, including the comprehensive reform package I've spent months developing. The Wilson family legacy won't just survive this crisis, it will become the gold standard for financial integrity. Catherine, Richard Hartman's voice booms across the ballroom. He's fully recovered now, his natural vigor restored once the strain of Thomas's betrayal was removed. The Wharton School case study about your handling of the crisis just went live. I join him at a quiet corner table, accepting a glass of sparkling water. How's the new executive team working out? Brilliantly, he beams. Your vetting process was impeccable. Not a single red flag in the bunch. My phone shows another alert. Thomas's former executive suite has been transformed into the Wilson Center for Leadership Ethics. The inscription on the door reads, "Integrity first, profits follow." The financial media is calling it the Wilson Way. Claire shows me another article. Your protocols for ethical corporate leadership are being adopted nationwide. I think about the day Thomas first showed me his company's executive floor, how he condescendingly explained corporate hierarchies while I silently identified every vulnerability in their governance structure. Your next meeting is confirmed, my assistant announces. The SEC commissioner wants to discuss implementing your oversight frameworks as regulatory guidelines. As I prepare for the meeting, my security feed shows one last image of Thomas's former power being dismantled. His executive parking space now converted to a carpooling zone for junior employees. The same employees he once claimed were too insignificant to bother learning their names. The educational series launch exceeded all projections, Elaine informs me. Over 20,000 financial professionals have already registered for the first integrity certification program. My phone buzzes with a notification from the Federal Correctional Facility. Thomas has requested permission to develop a financial ethics curriculum for fellow inmates. Trying to make amends in some small way, his application reads, "Should we tell him about the Foundation's prison outreach initiative?" Claire asks, the program bringing financial literacy to incarcerated individuals preparing for re-entry. Let him create his own path, I reply. Redemption only matters when it comes from within. The annual Economic Conference Committee approaches as I prepare to leave. We'd like to feature you as our keynote speaker on rethinking financial leadership. I nod, thinking of all the conferences where Thomas insisted I remain silent and ornamental. How things change. Through my various screens, I watch the ripple effects of our work spreading across the financial landscape. Regulatory bodies adopting our transparency protocols, business schools revamping their ethics curriculum, industry leaders implementing our accountability frameworks. One last update, Claire calls as I head toward my next appointment. The restoration of funds to all affected employees is complete. The last pension account was fully reimbursed this morning. I pause, allowing myself a moment of quiet satisfaction. This was always about more than just exposing Thomas. It was about protecting the people who trusted the system he abused. The afternoon sun streams through the plaza's stained glass windows, casting prismatic patterns across my notes. I find myself thinking about legacy. Not the kind inscribed on buildings or announced in press releases, but the quiet impact of work done with integrity. Mrs. Wilson, a young financial analyst, approaches tentatively. I just wanted to say, your story helped me speak up about irregularities I noticed in my department. You showed me that integrity matters more than fitting in. These moments mean more than any keynote speech or magazine cover. As I gather my materials for the foundation board meeting, my phone displays one final notification. Thomas has published an article from prison titled, "The Price of Arrogance, a Cautionary Tale." The financial community is buzzing about his unflinching self-examination. Perhaps there's hope for him yet. The board meeting unfolds with efficient precision. My governance reforms pass unanimously, establishing a new standard for financial oversight that will extend far beyond Wilson Financial. Catherine, Ellen squeezes my hand as the meeting concludes. You've transformed our family's darkest moment into a beacon for others. Outside the boardroom windows, the city stretches toward the horizon, a landscape of financial institutions now beginning to re-examine their foundations because of what happened here. The senator's office called again, my assistant informs me. They're serious about having you consult on the new financial oversight legislation. I consider this carefully. From exposing one man's fraud to reshaping industry regulations, AI, journey I never anticipated when I first discovered those suspicious transactions in our joint accounts. Tell them I'll review the draft bill next week, I decide. Some responsibilities extend beyond personal vindication. As evening falls over, the city. I find myself alone in my office, surrounded by the tangible evidence of transformation. On one screen, business students analyze the Wilson case study. On another, financial journalists discuss the ethics renaissance sweeping through Wall Street. On a third, corporate boards implement governance reforms bearing the Wilson name. My phone shows a message from an unexpected source, Thomas's former executive assistant, not Olivia, but his previous assistant Margaret, who now leads our employee advocacy program. Just wanted you to know, we found more evidence of Thomas's manipulation in the archived servers. He was doctoring performance reviews to deny promotions to anyone he considered a threat. This shouldn't surprise me anymore. Yet each new revelation still stings, not for my sake, but for all the careers he damaged while pretending to be a leader. Add it to the case files, I reply. Update the ethics curriculum accordingly. The lessons of Thomas's fall continue to teach long after his power has been stripped away. A gentle knock at my door reveals Richard Hartman, looking unusually pensive. Catherine, there's something I need to tell you. He settles into the chair across from my desk, his expression serious. The board has been discussing the future of Wilson Financial. After everything that's happened, we believe the company needs a new direction, a new identity, free from the past. I nod, understanding completely. A rebranding would make sense. More than that. Richard leans forward. We're proposing a complete restructuring and a new name. We'd like to call it Integrity Financial Partners. I consider this thoughtfully. It's appropriate. A fresh start built on the lessons learned. That's not all. He takes a deep breath. The board unanimously wants you to serve as the new CEO. The offer hangs in the air between us, From underestimated spouse to chief executive, a trajectory Thomas would have found incomprehensible. "I'll need time to consider it," I answer honestly. This was never about taking his position. "We know that," Richard smiles. "That's precisely why you're the right person. You protected this company because it was the right thing to do, not because you wanted power." As he leaves, I turn to the windows, watching the city lights flicker to life against the darkening sky. The same view Thomas once coveted as a symbol of his importance now serves as a reminder of responsibility rather than privilege. My phone chimes with an alert from the prison system. Thomas's request to develop the inmate financial education program has been approved. His first class will begin next month. Perhaps his greatest contribution to financial ethics will come from behind bars. How fitting. The next morning brings a flurry of activity as news of the company's proposed restructuring leaks to the financial press. Wilson Financial to rebrand after scandal. Ethics champion Catherine Wilson tapped as CEO, reads the Wall Street Journal headline. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing since dawn. Colleagues offering congratulations, industry leaders requesting meetings, reporters seeking comments. I've responded to none of them yet, preferring to gather my thoughts before making any public statements. Ellen called, my assistant informs me. She says whatever you decide about the CEO position, the family supports you completely. This means more than all the board votes and press coverage combined. I spend the morning in quiet contemplation, reviewing not just the company's situation, but my own journey. When I first discovered Thomas's deception, my goal was protection, not advancement. Now I'm faced with an opportunity I never sought, but perhaps was preparing for all along. Claire arrives mid-morning with more updates. The market is responding positively to the restructuring announcement. Stocks are up 12% already. And the employee reaction? This matters more to me than market valuations. Overwhelmingly supportive, she confirms, especially among the mid-level managers who felt most betrayed by Thomas. I nod, making note of this. Any decision must prioritize rebuilding trust with the people who make the company work. The Ethics Committee has finished reviewing all of Thomas's past deals, Elaine reports, entering with a thick folder. They've identified every client who might have been affected by his manipulations. Make sure they're all contacted personally, I insist. Not just formal letters. I want actual conversations about how we're making things right. Through my office window, I notice increased activity in the plaza below. News vans gathering, reporters preparing for the official announcement of the company's transformation. Richard's office just called, my assistant informs me. The board is ready whenever you are. This is it, the moment of decision. I gather my thoughts, considering what leadership means in the aftermath of betrayal. It's not just about strategies and profit margins, but about rebuilding something fundamentally sound from compromised foundations. As I prepare to meet the board, my phone shows one final notification, a message from Thomas forwarded through his prison counselor. I just heard the news. They couldn't have chosen better. I never deserved you, Catherine. Too little, too late. But perhaps evidence that some lessons eventually sink in, even for the most arrogant. The boardroom falls silent as I enter. 12 pairs of eyes watch me expectantly, the company's fate hanging on my decision. Before I give you my answer, I begin, settling into the chair at the head of the table. I need to share my vision for what this company must become. For the next hour, I outline a transformation more fundamental than any of them anticipated. Not just a new name and governance structure, but a complete reimagining of what financial service means in a post-trust world. Integrity can't just be our company name, I conclude. It must be our operating system, the foundation of every decision, every transaction, every client interaction. Richard leans forward. And will you lead this transformation as CEO? The room holds its collective breath. Through the boardroom windows, I can see the city stretching before me, not as a kingdom to rule, but as a community to serve. Yes, I answer finally, but on one condition. Name it, Richard responds immediately. We establish the most comprehensive whistleblower protection program in the industry. I lean forward, my voice firm. No one should ever again fear reporting ethical concerns. The condition is approved unanimously, and just like that, the transformation becomes official. Catherine Wilson, once dismissed as merely decorative, now holds the reins of one of the country's most closely watched financial institutions. As the news spreads through the company, I make a point of walking the floors, speaking directly with employees at all levels. These conversations matter more than any press conference or board presentation. I never expected to be in this position. I tell a group of junior analysts, but I promise you this, I will never forget what happens when leadership prioritizes image over integrity. By late afternoon, the official announcement has generated a media frenzy. My assistant has organized the requests into categories: financial press, mainstream news, industry publications, speaking engagements. The Princeton Business School wants you for their Distinguished Speaker Series, Claire reports. Topic: Transforming Corporate Culture from Within. Ironic, considering Thomas once told me I wouldn't understand a business school lecture if my life depended on it. As the day winds down, I find myself back in my office, soon to be relocated to the CEO suite, though I've requested a modest renovation to remove all traces of Thomas's excessive decor. My phone shows a message from Ellen. Just saw the official announcement. So proud of you. Remember, you earned this through your own merit, not through anyone's downfall. Her words touch me deeply. This was never about replacing Thomas, but about creating something better from the wreckage of his failures. Through my security feeds, I watch the day's events unfold across multiple screens. The press conference announcing the company's transformation, financial analysts praising the decision as bold and necessary, employees sharing their renewed optimism on internal communication channels. Mrs. Wilson, my assistant interrupts gently, your car is ready whenever you'd like to head home. Home. The brownstone feels different now, cleansed of Thomas's presence, transformed into a space that truly reflects me rather than his idea of what would impress others. Before leaving, I spend a few moments at the window, watching the financial district transition from workday to evening. The same buildings where Thomas once networked and schemed now house a growing movement for financial reform, one that began with a single act of standing up to deception. My phone shows one final notification for the day: the prison education. Department confirming Thomas's financial ethics curriculum has been approved. His first class will address the psychology of financial misconduct, a first-person account. Perhaps this is his path to redemption, not through empty apologies, but through ensuring others don't repeat his failures. As I gather my things to leave, Claire enters with breaking news. The Regulatory Commission just announced new oversight, requirements for financial institutions. They're calling them the Wilson Standards. From exposing one man's fraud to reshaping industry regulations, a journey I never could have imagined when I first discovered those suspicious transactions in our joint accounts. The town car glides through evening traffic as I review notes for tomorrow's leadership transition meeting. My phone buzzes with a text from my grandmother, the woman whose inheritance provided my secret financial independence long before Thomas entered my life. Saw the news, darling. Always knew you were destined for more than being someone's wife. Lead with wisdom. These words bring tears to my eyes. Grandmother always saw me clearly, even when others saw only what they wanted to. See, as we pass Thomas's former private club, the one that rejected my membership application as inappropriate since I was just a spouse, I noticed the new sign out front. Under new management, committed to equality. Another institution transformed in the wake of exposed corruption. The driver pulls up to my brownstone, now renovated to reflect my own aesthetic rather than Thomas's preference for ostentatious displays of wealth. The simple elegance feels like a physical manifestation of the transformation in my life, from pretending to be less to embracing my full capabilities. "Mrs. Wilson," the doorman greets me with genuine warmth. "Congratulations on your new position." Inside, I settle into my study. Once Thomas's domain, now my sanctuary. The walls previously covered with his hunting trophies and corporate awards now display my own achievements alongside art that actually moves me. My phone chimes with one last message, a note from Richard. "The board couldn't be more confident in our decision. You rebuilt what Thomas nearly destroyed. Now you'll build something even greater." I pour a glass of wine, not from Thomas's pretentious collection, but from a small vineyard I discovered during a business trip he deemed too boring to attend. The vintage is excellent, though Thomas would never have appreciated its subtle complexity. On my desk sits the official CEO contract, awaiting my signature tomorrow. Next to it, a framed photo from my business school graduation, the one Thomas never attended because he claimed it wouldn't be interesting. If only he could see me now. Through the window, the city sparkles in the darkness, a constellation of lights representing countless lives connected through the financial systems I now help shape. The responsibility is enormous, but so is the opportunity to create lasting change. Tomorrow marks the official beginning of Integrity Financial. Partners under my leadership. Tonight is for reflection on the journey from underestimated spouse to industry leader, from quiet observer to vocal champion of reform. My phone shows one final notification, a message from the prison counselor who works with Thomas. He watched your press conference today. "For what it's worth," he said, "she always was the smarter one. I was just too blind to see it. Too little, too late, but perhaps the beginning of true understanding." I close my eyes, allowing myself to fully absorb the magnitude of the transformation in the company, in the industry, and most importantly, in myself. The woman Thomas thought he married never existed. The woman I truly am is just getting started. Tomorrow, Catherine Wilson takes her place among the financial leaders reshaping the industry. Tonight, I simply savor the quiet victory of being precisely who I always was, even when no one else could see it. The journey from underestimated to unstoppable is complete. And yet, in many ways, it's only just beginning. 1 year to the day after Thomas's sentencing, I host the inaugural Integrity and Finance Summit at the newly renovated headquarters of what was once Wilson Financial. The gleaming sign above the entrance now reads, Integrity Partners, a name that reflects not just a rebranding, but a fundamental reimagining of what financial service means in a post-scandal world. The grand atrium buzzes with conversation as financial leaders from across the globe network and share insights. These same executives who once dismissed me as merely decorative now seek my guidance on transforming their own corporate cultures. Life has a way of coming full circle. "Your keynote starts in 15 minutes, Ms. Wilson," my chief of staff reminds me discreetly. I've dropped the Mrs., a small but significant reclaiming of identity. I take a moment to observe the scene. Around me, the summit attendees represent a cross-section of the financial world, from veteran CEOs to emerging fintech innovators, from regulatory officials to academic leaders. All gathered here because of a transformation that began with a single discovery in my joint bank accounts. As I make my way toward the auditorium, I pass the Heritage Wall, a new installation chronicling the company's journey from crisis to renewal. Prominently featured is a simple quote: "Integrity is not just what we do, but who we are when no one is watching." The irony that this wisdom emerged from Thomas's deception isn't lost on anyone. The auditorium falls silent as I take the stage. 500 industry leaders wait expectantly to hear from the woman who turned personal betrayal into institutional revolution. A year ago today, I begin, I stood in a courthouse watching justice finally catch up to deception. It would have been easy to view that moment as an ending, the final chapter in a painful story of betrayal. Instead, it became the first page of something far more significant. From my vantage point on stage, I can see Ellen Wilson sitting in the front row, her eyes bright with pride. Beside her sits Richard Hartman, now chairman emeritus after stepping back to make way for new leadership. Claire and Elaine occupy places of honor as executives in their own right, their talents no longer supporting someone else's vision but driving their own. The financial industry doesn't have a regulation problem, I continue. It has a culture problem. We've built systems that reward short-term thinking and individual achievement at the expense of collective integrity. Today, we begin the work of fundamental reinvention. As I outline the new integrity standards that will reshape financial governance nationwide, my mind briefly flashes to Thomas. According to his prison counselor, he watches every public appearance I make, studying the company's transformation, from a cell in federal prison. His latest letter arrived yesterday, different from his early desperate pleas or subsequent apologies. This one acknowledged something more profound. I never saw you clearly. Not because you were hiding, but because I wasn't looking. The financial world is finally seeing what I missed. After my keynote, the day unfolds in a series of breakthrough conversations. Financial leaders commit to adopting the integrity protocols. Regulatory officials discuss incorporating our transparency frameworks into formal requirements. Academic partners unveil new ethics curricula based on our case studies. The Harvard Business Review editor just confirmed, Claire informs me between sessions, they're featuring your leadership transformation as their cover story next month. In the executive lounge, I catch a glimpse of financial news headlines on mounted screens. Integrity Partners posts, record growth under Wilson's leadership. Reform pioneer reshapes financial landscape. From scandal to standard bearer. The integrity revolution. Catherine, Ellen approaches during a quiet moment. I wanted you to know, Thomas has completed the first full course of his prison financial literacy program. The warden says it's transformed the economic outcomes for released inmates. I absorb this information thoughtfully. I'm glad something constructive has emerged from his time there. He's different now, she adds carefully. The counselor says he's genuinely changed. People often do, I reply, when they lose everything that once defined them. Our conversation is interrupted by the Federal Reserve chairwoman, eager to discuss implementing the integrity standards across the national banking system. Such is my new reality, personal reflections quickly giving way to institutional transformation. The afternoon session features a panel I've been anticipating. From whistleblower to changemaker, creating cultures where truth can speak to power. On stage are 5 individuals from different institutions who exposed financial misconduct, at great personal risk. The greatest barrier to integrity isn't malice, one panelist explains. It's fear. Fear of retaliation, fear of isolation, fear of losing everything you've worked for. I think about my own journey, the months of quiet documentation, the strategic patience, the careful preparation. I had advantages these whistleblowers didn't: financial independence, documented evidence, powerful allies. This is why our whistleblower protection program isn't just a policy, I add from my seat in the audience. It's the cornerstone of our entire governance structure. Between sessions, I slip away to my office. No longer Thomas's former domain, but a space completely redesigned to reflect a different kind of leadership. Gone are the imposing desk and intimidating visitor chairs. In their place, a collaborative workspace designed for conversation rather than dictation. My phone shows a notification from the prison system. Thomas's latest project proposal has been approved. He's developing a comprehensive curriculum called The Anatomy of Financial Fraud, Recognition, and Prevention. The description notes that it draws on personal experience to illuminate the psychological and systemic factors that enable corporate misconduct. Perhaps this is his path to redemption, not through apologizing for the past, but by creating something valuable from its lessons. As evening approaches, the summit transitions to its closing reception. The atrium has been transformed with elegant lighting and subtle decor, sophisticated without being ostentatious, much like the company's new identity. Catherine, Richard approaches, champagne flute in hand. The Regulatory Commission chair just confirmed they're adopting the integrity standards as formal requirements. You've created a legacy that will outlast all of us. I smile, thinking of how differently this day might have unfolded had Thomas succeeded in his original plan, emptying our accounts before fleeing with Olivia to Buenos Aires. His short-sighted greed gave rise to industry-wide transformation. Speaking of legacy, Richard continues, have you seen the latest about Olivia? I shake my head, genuinely disinterested in Thomas's former accomplice. She's published a memoir, Collateral Damage, My Life as the Other Woman in a Financial Fraud. It's actually quite insightful about how easily people can be manipulated when they're seeking validation. Everyone finds their own way to make meaning from wreckage, I observe, some better than others. As the reception continues, I make a point of speaking with each table, not just the VIPs, but the mid-level managers, the administrative staff, the facilities team. True transformation happens at every level, not just the executive suite. I want to thank you, a young financial analyst tells me quietly. After what happened with Mr. Wilson, I nearly left the industry altogether. You showed me there's another way to work in finance, with integrity at the center. These moments mean more than any magazine cover or industry award. Near midnight, the event finally winds down. The transformation team gathers in my office for a final toast to the summit's success. To the integrity revolution, Claire raises her glass. And to the woman who started it all by refusing to be underestimated. No, I correct gently, to all of us who believed in something better than what we had. After they depart, I find myself alone in the office that once symbolized Thomas's power and now represents something entirely different. Through the windows, the financial district sparkles against the night sky. The same buildings, the same institutions, but slowly evolving from within. My phone shows one final notification, a message from Thomas's prison counselor. He watched the summit live stream today. When they announced the national adoption of the integrity standards, he said, "She built something better from my destruction than I ever created intentionally. I thought you should know." I close the notification without responding. Thomas's recognition doesn't matter anymore. Not for validation, not for vindication, not even for closure. My path forward has nothing to do with his belated enlightenment. As I prepare to leave, I pause at the heritage wall once more. Among the photos and timelines chronicling the company's transformation is a small plaque that reads, "From crisis comes opportunity. From betrayal comes wisdom. From falling comes flight." I trace the words with my fingertip, thinking of the journey that brought me here. Not just the dramatic confrontation at the gala or the subsequent industry revolution, but the quiet moments of discovery and decision that preceded them. The night I first noticed the discrepancies in our accounts. The morning I chose documentation over confrontation. The day I realized that exposing Thomas wasn't enough. The system that enabled him needed transformation. Outside, my driver waits to take me home. Not to the brownstone Thomas and I once shared, but to a penthouse overlooking the park, a space that has never known his presence. I've kept nothing from our marriage except the lessons. "Home, Ms. Wilson?" the driver asks as I settle into the car. Yes, I reply. But first, a small detour. We drive past the financial district landmarks that once defined Thomas's world. The private club that rejected me as just a spouse, now overhauled with inclusive membership policies. The steakhouse where he wined and dined Olivia, now closed after losing its clientele in the wake of the scandal. The jewelry store where he bought her gifts with stolen money, now featuring an ethics-sourced collection. The city has moved on. So have I. At home, I kick off my heels and pour a glass of wine, settling onto my balcony with its panoramic view. Below, the city pulses with energy. Millions of lives interconnected through the financial systems I now help reshape. On my coffee table sits the advance copy of my upcoming book, Invisible Power: How Underestimation Becomes Your Greatest Advantage. Not a tell-all about Thomas's betrayal, but a blueprint for transforming organizational culture from any position. My phone chimes with a message from Ellen. The summit was extraordinary. You've created something powerful and lasting. And Catherine. Thank you for finding a way to acknowledge Thomas's prison education program. Redemption comes in unexpected forms. I hadn't planned to mention his program, but during a panel on rehabilitation, it seemed appropriate to note that even those who violated trust can contribute to rebuilding it, from wherever they are. As midnight approaches, I review tomorrow's schedule: meetings with international banking regulators, interviews with financial journalists, a working lunch with the ethics committee. The work of transformation continues. My security feed shows one final image for the day: the illuminated sign atop what was once Wilson Financial, now shining with the Integrity Partners logo. From the ashes of betrayal, something stronger has emerged. I think about the day, exactly 1 year ago, when I sat in a courtroom watching Thomas face the consequences of his actions. I remember his look of disbelief when he realized how completely I had documented his deception, how thoroughly I had protected myself from his betrayal. "How?" he had whispered as they led him away. "How did you know?" I hadn't answered then. The truth was too simple, too fundamental for him to grasp in. That moment of reckoning. I had always known who I was, even when he couldn't see it. Tonight, looking out over the city that once represented Thomas's playground and now serves as the canvas for the transformation I've initiated, I finally feel the circle complete. Not because he understands what he lost, but because it no longer matters whether he does. The woman he married never existed except in his imagination, a beautiful accessory without substance or capability. The woman I am built an empire from the wreckage of his deception. Tomorrow brings new challenges, new opportunities to extend the integrity revolution beyond finance into other industries. My phone already shows meeting requests from technology executives, healthcare leaders, educational administrators, all seeking guidance on institutional transformation. But tonight, I simply savor the quiet victory of being exactly who I always was, even when no one else could see it. The journey from underestimated to unstoppable is complete. The financial world now knows what Thomas never did. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one with the most to say. Sometimes, the overlooked spouse is the one with true vision. Sometimes, the greatest power comes from being precisely who you are, especially when others refuse to see it. From the betrayal of emptied accounts came the birth of a financial revolution. From one man's deception emerged an industry's transformation. From the ashes of what was lost arose something far greater than what had ever existed before. Full circle, complete, and yet, in many ways, just beginning. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.